And the speakers to keep their cameras on, please. Thank you. Namaskar, everybody. This is Dr. Rupa Vasudevan. I am the Chancellor for Bharatiya Engineering, Science and Technology Innovation University from Anantapur, Andhra Pradesh. It's a state private university from India. I welcome all of you, our esteemed speakers, our students, our academicians, and all the participants today, international participants and special invitees today for the webinar Technology, Agricultural Technology and Global Food Security. I also am the global chairperson for World Forum for Education. World Forum for Education was incepted in 2017, founded by myself and our co-founder, Shri Bharatlal Meenaji, who is also the chairman for Bharatiya Engineering, Science and Technology Innovation University. This is an arm, intellectual arm of PEST-IU, which primarily focuses on providing platforms, integrating research organizations, educational institutions, with industry. And we believe that all the people across the globe who have the knowledge and skill sets and are making a considerable change, a meaningful change to the society, need a platform for showcase and credit. And that's exactly what we aim to do with World Forum for Education. I would request all of you to go over the website of World Forum for Education for further details. I'm joined here by, in welcoming all of you, by, of course, our chairman, Bharatlal Meenaji, who is ex-IAS, also from Karnataka, and our senior advisor, Shri Dr. Manmohan Singh Ji, who is ex-IAS from, retired IAS officer from Andhra Pradesh. Also joined here by our international global partner, World Women Leading Change founder, Dr. Ayla Al-Jofre, and the presidents of World Women Leading Change from Africa, Ambassador Alice, Ambassador Debbie, and our other international guests. We give you a very warm welcome for today's webinar, and I hope you find it quite insightful and enriching in the next 1.5 hours. The topic for today is agriculture technology and global food security. It's an extremely crucial topic today world over. We all know that every day about 800 million people go to bed hungry. 1.2 billion are food insecure. 2 billion people suffer from micronutrient deficiencies, and over 200 million children are either stunted or wasted. These are according to the estimates by the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization. So extreme hunger and food malnutrition hinders the progress of sustainable development goals intended to be achieved by 2030, where we are looking at a global scenario sans hunger, sans malnutrition. Technological innovations can definitely intervene and help address the most pressing issues that are faced by the world today, including the food security, and therefore we chose this topic. This needs to be addressed, and the concerns need to be brought together by stakeholders, by institutions, by industry, and by academic leaders. Technology holds significant potential to transform and improve the efficiency of agricultural production, and this is the case worldwide. And when combined together, agricultural technology has huge potential to improve global food security. Now, we have a lot of advancements in technology and agriculture. We are aware of robots, we are aware of drones, we are aware of even cell phones that have wonderful, phenomenal apps, and that have become a potential game changer for farmers, especially during the COVID times. They are time and cost effective. There is also, the complete elimination of middlemen with the kind of apps and technology that is developed as of date. According to WHO, food safety and nutrition are inextricably linked. Now, let me give you some statistics on the fact book of CIA from 2014, where we have the 6 countries that give the maximum global agricultural output, which is about $4,777 billion. 42% of the global agricultural output is brought in by just 6 countries. And I would just name the countries in the order of the maximum output. First, of course, is China. Second is India. And the third is the US. Then comes Nigeria and then Indonesia. Now, as one can see, 5 of the 6 global leaders in agricultural output is developing countries. And now let me come with a perspective to India. India is the world's largest agricultural powerhouse. It is the biggest private enterprise having agriculture in over 6 lakh villages. 70% of India's population is rural, and India ranks 2nd globally in agricultural production. There are 146 million farms in India alone. Now, how many have adopted technology? Now, this is a question that is imperative, and that is a real challenge that we have as on date. Unless there is money for farmers, these technologies will never scale up in a developing country like India. I have another concern. We have a huge youth power. We have a youth dividend. Our average aging index of India is just 28. We are one of the youngest countries of the world. Now, as per the 12th Annual Status of Education Report from 2017, a significant proportion of youth from India, which is between 14 to 18 years, are working, 42%, now regardless of whether they are enrolled in formal education or not. Of these, 79% work in family farms, in their own family farms. But out of these students, only 1.2% of the youth aspire to become full-time farmers. Now, what is it that hinders them from continuing their family lineage of growing? Therefore, I believe there's a need to strive for a meaningful, sustained impact in areas that have most potential for sustained growth, and that's only possible through education, through awareness, and very importantly, by creating a value chain through developing markets and agricultural business. Now, I believe this can be solved only through partnerships and innovation between stakeholders, institutions, organizations, the industry. Success in emerging agricultural technology only and only depends upon quick growth in marketing and trade. And that's where we need to put in agricultural technology, digital infrastructure for farms are possible only when there is a flourishing marketing and trade, and where students and the youngsters believe there is marketing and trade. Now, we need to eliminate existing barriers, which include real-time transfer of information, because there is a huge challenge. Markets and consumer demands by infusing state-of-art ICT tools, technological tools. And for this, we need to act collectively. We need to act collectively to remove the constraints. It could be technological constraints, social, organizational, policy, or otherwise, that stifle and discourage the capacity of family farming and to innovate. With this, I think I will leave it to the extraordinary and luminous lineup of speakers who are here today with us. We have research organizations, we have agricultural FPOs, we have industry here, and I'm most eager to hear them out, their inputs on making agricultural technology the word for tomorrow. And I leave now the session to Dr. D.L. Maheshwar. Dr. D.L. Maheshwar is the ex-Vice Chancellor of Agriculture, of University of Horticultural Sciences from Bagalkot, and he is the current Vice Chancellor of our university, Bharatiya Engineering University from Andhra Pradesh. So over to you, Dr. D.L. Maheshwar. Thank you.
Thank you very much, madam. Thanks for your initial appraisal, which is more based on the virtual facts, wherein this has certainly, enlightened the agrarian situation in the country, and more so, you initiated the necessity of the technological urgencies, the technological ultimatum that is already happened in certain countries in the global side, and the importance towards the post-harvest management, say including market management, has been the need of the day. In the light of that, the SDG goals, what is been contemplated to be geared up in this by 2030, which includes on ending of hunger, then insecurity of the food, then malnutrition addressing. So these are the core issues which the SDG is now focusing. Unfortunately, due to this COVID, which is a ever-time crisis for the whole globe, which has now slowed down the progress of this particular SDG goals. And now it is the time, whether the food production is seasonal. Food production is seasonal, but hunger is not seasonal. Hunger is all the time. So such being the case, now it is a time to not only to focus on the formulation of vaccine for COVID, parallelly and simultaneously, you must also plan for managing the food crisis. So that is the challenge that is before the agricultural policymakers, agricultural researchers, then farmers, and all the stakeholders who are in the game. Now, in this context, it is very clear that the adoption of the technologies is not yet to the mark. The policies are required to be refined, it should be relooked. So in this context, how the productivity and the production can be managed to overcome this crisis by 2030 and beyond. So in this connection, the best Bharatiya Engineering Science and Technology Innovation University and the World Forum for Education, they have jointly sponsored this particular program. And in this particular today's webinar, we are happy to announce that we have an expert who is in the policy formulation, who has already taken up some of the evaluation of the projects with us. Then we have the bureaucrat and agricultural practitioner we have, and we also have researchers with us, and beyond that, a practical farmer, a farmer leader with us. So this is a composition of all the four new dimensions of experts in this particular webinar. I'm sure that their vision, their views are going to be of a much use to the viewers today. So now I request the speakers to restrict their and to address for a time of 10 minutes. Each speaker is supposed to take about 10 minutes in addressing the gathering, and at the 9th minute I'm going to call up the time check. Please restrict your address to that. And I also request the viewers and the other participants to please mute your microphone and camera so that experts could able to be listened properly. So now with this, we will now take up the first speaker's presentation. That goes with Dr. A.V. Manjunath. Dr. A.V. Manjunath is a passionate friend of mine and is presently the director of Karnataka Evaluation Authority in the Planning Department of Government of Karnataka. And he is now serving, apart from that, is also a program monitoring officer of the Department of Planning, and he has served as professor in the Indian socio-economic change at Bangalore, and he has been the pivotal person to produce some of the policy documents to the government, especially on this, more crop per drop of water. So that policy he has framed, and that has become a very useful adaptive policy for the state. That is his contribution. And his also main research areas include natural resource management, agriculture water management, agriculture markets, and analysis of developmental programs. And he is now the monitoring and evaluation expert in the Karnataka Evaluation Authority. And he being a person involved in the policy issues, I'm sure that he's going to share his experience as to how policies are rendering towards the food production, productivity, and in securing the malnutrition. So such being the case, now may I call upon Dr. Manjunath to initiate his first address. Thank you very much, Dr. Manjunath. Please welcome.
Thank you, sir, for a wonderful introduction. I think all of you are hearing, right?
Yes.
And now I will share my PowerPoint presentation. I thank the host. I thank the host, Best Innovation University. Especially, this is my second presentation before Bharatlal Meena sir. First presentation I made when he was serving for agriculture, and it was an impact evaluation of Rashtriya Krishi Vikas Yojana, which was an innovative program in the history of government of India itself. Because of the incentive mechanism which is being embedded in the program. Now I will start my presentation. I might take 2 minutes more because I have made some important concerns actually related to COVID and some kind of data where it might throw some light actually, in the context of present COVID, and to somehow come out with innovations and innovation technologies adapted and which are required. Now I will start my presentation. My presentation is basically, I structured it as global food security and agricultural technologies. First, I will speak about global food security. Food security has evolved from its traditional focus on food availability and access to more inclusive measures such as nutritional value and stability. And with the expected population of 9 billion people by 2050, and the food demand will be a great challenge. And food security, as already Madam has already told, as well as Maheshwar sir also has already told, that it is a prerequisite for achieving SDG goals on end poverty and zero hunger. And food security are caused due to many reasons like political instability, inadequate planning and policies, lack of transparency, and mainly it is due to the slow pace of technology development. I think we need to gear up with the technology development which involves innovation. Innovation is the need of hour. And in addition to that, climate change has aggravated our problems actually due to shifting variations in temperatures, weather, all these, which is contributing to the stagnated agriculture growth and food insecurity. Today, if we look at our situation, COVID-19 is likely to cause transitory food insecurity across vulnerable countries. The effect of pandemic on food security may persist longer as combined effect of economic slowdown and increase in poverty, limiting food supply and access by 2020. And it is also estimated that we will have a additional shortage in terms of food, and in terms of number of people facing acute food insecurity by up to 130 million due to COVID alone by 2020. These serious concerns related to food security in the developing countries have assumed global proportions in the last few years with need for urgent action. If you look at potential factors affecting macro level food security and progress, I think the 4 dimensions, which is availability, access, utilization, and stability, depends on so many factors, which are under, some are under our control and some we are not, we are unable to control some of the factors actually, which also involves like external factors like other countries, import tariffs, all these things. And I think we need to balance. I think we need to strike a balance so that we progress in a positive manner. And with respect to Sustainable Development Goal 2, we have 5 targets, which I don't want to explain. Basically, it relates to food security, quality, nutrition. And if you look at India from the beginning, India is agriculture is the backbone of Indian economy. We have like in spite of lot of developments, still I think Madam has already explained that many people are stunted, many people are underweight. Intensity of food deprivation is 105 kilocalories per person per day, and India ranks 72 out of 113 countries measured by Global Food Security Index, which is a concern actually. We are 72, if 72nd rank. That means I think there is lot of ample scope for improvement, in India in terms of access, affordability, availability. And if you look at this diagram actually, 3 pillars: affordability, quality, and safety. And if you compare the world average, actually in terms of availability and affordability, we are on par with the world average. But with respect to quality and safety, we are still below the world average. I think quality and nutrition. Now I think with COVID also, I think this value can even come down actually because of the COVID situation. If you look at the Asia and Pacific, India ranks 15th place in terms of overall index. The overall index is estimated by considering affordability, availability, quality, and safety. With respect to affordability, we are 16th rank. With respect to availability, we are 9th rank. With respect to quality and safety, we are 18th rank. And natural resources and resilience is not considered for estimating the overall index, but in this also we are 19th rank when you consider Asia and Pacific. If you consider overall index affordability, we are 58.7 out of 100. Availability, we are 65.1 out of 100. And quality and safety, we are lower. It is 51.3. And this is percentage changes. That the next column will show us the percentage changes before when compared to if you compare 2019 versus 2018. Current food security oriented interventions in India, I think many of us, we know that in India, we have direct interventions and indirect interventions. And we have also National Food Security Act, which converts legal entitlements for existing food security programs such as PDS, Midday Meal Scheme, and ICDS programs. Role of agriculture technologies. Now, I think in order to meet these challenges, the role of agriculture technologies and innovations plays a very important role. Achieving food security needs policy and investment reforms on multiple fronts. One front is technological innovations for agriculture, and its intensification are critical towards global food security. Technological innovations can also be used to mitigate the natural resource constraints. Like in India, most of the area, like 2/3 of the area is hard rock area, which is having a water scarcity problem. All this with technological innovations, we could able to overcome these resource constraints also. And it is estimated that most promising interventions in rural agriculture are technology and service based. And technology aids in access to data, markets, financial services. Farmers can plant, fertilize, harvest, and sell products more effectively. Therefore, emerging technologies and innovations applied to food are critical in reversing the food insecurity situation to food security situation and sustaining the constant food supply. When you look at agriculture technologies in India, what are these agriculture technologies? If you could able to look the panorama of these technological innovations or technologies in agriculture, digital agriculture, which is also very important actually to gear up with value chains to improve the food production. Agriculture automation systems, including field machinery, irrigation systems, which is greenhouse automation. All these things are because day by day the land size is decreasing, operational land size is increasing, and we need to go for more crop per unit of land. Actually, more crop per unit of land, more crop per unit of water. This kind of things only could achieve through smart farming and internet of agriculture technology, which is now called as, we need a third revolution actually, smart farming or internet of agriculture technology using sensors, precision agriculture based techniques in field level, so that I think we could gear up with the international developed countries productivities. Even within lab and land, I think we have a lot of yield gaps actually, which could be overcome through such kind of technologies. Maybe we need some institutional reforms which has been already taken up, like land leasing, land sharing, and contract farming bills is under proposed to states for acceptance. Once it comes, I think some kind of these innovations also can gear up with these innovations for productivity and scale economies. Data mining techniques is one more area where I think we need to explore much for increasing the agriculture development. Integrated crop management systems, which is very important technique, that balances the necessities of organizing a profitable agri-based business with environmental accountability. Mobile phone technology has improved the overall agriculture extension service delivery systems, and many data mining techniques are used in case of forecasting production, productivity, prices. Now I think time has come. I think we need to depend more on ICT based technologies to control situations. Technology related to transition pathways towards sustainable agriculture and food systems. Need for state interventions through appropriate policies to promote innovations is important, and socio-economic assessment of technology should also play a role in policy formation. This is given by Chaturvedi, who is the Director General of Research and Information System. After studying how many states, around 6 to 7 states, he come out with this finding, and different already operational or developing modern technologies in agriculture, such as robotics, nanotechnology. And this nanotechnology, I would like to bring to your notice that, see, rather than applying the plant protection chemicals for the entire plant, we can apply to a particular part of a plant and then we can reduce the pesticide use. I think this is very useful technology. I think much research has to be put in this nanotechnology. Synthetic protein, cellular agriculture, from cells, from cell culture we can produce proteins, vitamins. This is also one more technology which is available. Gene editing technology, artificial intelligence, blockchain, and machine learning. Now coffee plantations in Karnataka, I think they are using this artificial intelligence, blockchain and machine learning techniques actually to control the production activities as well as the market activities, so that even producer and consumers should benefit out of it through a win-win situation. Unarmed aerial vehicles can enhance risk and damage assessments. Like recently there was a floods in Coorg, Chikmagalur, all these things. The unmanned aerial vehicles were used actually to estimate the losses. These are all some technologies where at least some closer to reality estimates can be worked out. And some more important technologies in terms of agriculture are vertical farming, vertical farming and food systems, digital agriculture, bioeconomy, circular agriculture, aquaponics are some of them. Innovative urban agriculture is another package where you can see, for instance, you can produce 140 kg vegetables per meter square of per year, which is a very, and climate smart agriculture is now picking up through, I think, promotion of millets in place of water consuming crops like paddy and wheat. And smart precision based agriculture is also one of the important technologies. The key takeaway from the entire presentation is a bottom-up approach for sustainable intensification with low cost and eco-friendly agriculture technologies can improve future household income and food security in India.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Manjunath.
Thank you, sir. Hello?
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, the presentation of Dr. Manjunath was full of facts, statistics, and analytics, and you could able to put forth the policies perspective wherein the investment for the most important sector like agriculture needs to be relooked and revisited. That is where the policy perspectives are to be emphasized from the, as you said, from the bottom of the whole planning process. It is not the top down, it is bottom up approach. I'm sure that this incentive, this insight is going to help in formulation of better policies in days to come. And thanks for your alerting on the more crop per land and more crop per water, per drop of water. This is what the resource management we should now look into. And your ICT applications we've already been applied in very many high value crops and also in other crops, including this control tower system, wherein the farmers will be forewarned. They will be alerted in advance. So this type of ICT applications are found to be relevant. You brought in the importance of the technology adoption for the promotion of agricultural productivity, which was very useful. Thanks for your indications of the insights based on your experience, based on your own involvement in the project evaluation and monitoring. Yes, thank you, Dr. Manjunath, once again. Thank you very much. Yeah. Now we have Mr. Habib Basha. Mr. Habib Basha is an agricultural professional. He has done his postgraduate in agriculture, and he has rendered more than about 30 years of service in the agricultural developmental activities, and he has contributed in effective implementation of the government programs, and he has also seen how the impact of the government investments are really happening at the field level, and what is the policy and other modifications, technological adoption are required at the field level have been very well keenly been observed by Mr. Habib Basha. I'm sure by virtue of his own personal experience from the bottom of the whole process, he's going to impress us about his sharing his experiences. Now I request Dr. Habib Basha to take over. Mr. Habib Basha.
Sir, namaste, sir. Namaste, sir.
Namaste.
Namaste to all. I am Habib Basha, Joint Director of Agriculture, working in the Department of Agriculture under Government of Andhra Pradesh. I would like to share some important moments of the food security. I am very fortunate enough for inviting me for this conference by the best university. Agriculture is basically is our Indian culture. Without agriculture, global there would be no business. Agriculture is such an important thing. Annam Parabrahma Sarupam. Without food, nobody can survive. But fortunately, our country is the predominantly agriculture developing country. Actually, in our agrarian sector, nearly 63 to 67% people are depending on agriculture. In nutshell, what I would like to say, agriculture is running in three corners. First is research, and second is extension, third is marketing. Fortunately, we are abundant in research, and our people and policy makers are very well tried for the last 40, 50 years to give the results of the research to the farmers. The production, due to that, production has gone up like anything in India. While Madam welcoming address, I think we are exceeding China also in food production, sir, in my way. Why? Because India is the kaleidoscope of crops. Nowhere we can see these many number of crops. If we go to Karnataka, one type of cropping situation and cropping climate, and the flora of, and the fauna of the Karnataka is different from Uttaranchal or Chhattisgarh. So that it's our fortunate enough to take birth on this land. Near how many crops we can't imagine. Even if you go to Maharashtra, if you go to Assam, the cropping systems and cropping diversity are different. Even we are very abundant, even we are very popular in many crops. Ours is the spice land. Ours is the food bowl. Ours is the grain bank of. But actually, what farmer is suffering in market? Many people are plundering, and many middlemen are plundering, and many private people are plundering the produce of the farmers through lowest prices they are offering. Unfortunately, in our country, there were not that much stringent laws or marketing. There is one proverb in Telugu. I think so few may can understand. Amabote adivi, konabote korivi. When the farmer would like to sell, it's very cheaper rate. When the farmer would like to buy, it's very costly. This is the situation. In three triangles, research is best, extension is best, and the governments have to concentrate on the marketing side. So that the food security, the farmer, when the farmers who are cultivating the crops to feed the millions of the mouths, they are taking the suicides due to their credit, their debts. Unfortunately, it's a very, very shameful to the developed society. Farmer suicide, he is feeding the millions of mouths. He is cultivating the crops, not for his family. It is for many crores of families. But due to market clutches, the farmer is going degrading economically. So that food security can be made when the farmer is potential in terms of his business. Many farmers in Andhra Pradesh are recently coming and cultivating the lands because of the government policies. The government of Andhra Pradesh have taken all the services to the doorsteps of the farmers. That up to village level. Previously, it was happening up to taluk level. The farmers are able to run longest distances. They have to take the services with a very, very difficult. Now, the government of Andhra Pradesh under the leadership of Y.S. Jagan Mohan Reddy sir, Honorable CM sir, all the Raitu Bharosa Kendra in each and every village, there is one Raitu Bharosa Kendra. This center will meet all the needs of the farmers, maybe the seeds, fertilizers, and pesticides, and his credit needs, and his marketing, and his technology. Even technology can be given at the village level. All the new innovations and technology innovations were adapted by the government of Andhra Pradesh. Actually, there is prior to that, the government of India has done a great work by creating the National Food Security Mission, NFSM. Unless until this National Food Security Act has not been amalgamated, has not been implemented, many million poor people have been under starvation. Really, governments are thinking to support the farmer. Through our government, our Andhra Pradesh government has gone up to the level of village level. The farmers need not to leave the village for any cause. Previously, if they need fertilizer, they have to come for taluk. Now the fertilizers are being supplied at their village level, and their credit needs and their marketing, procurement. Actually, government of India has been releasing the minimum support prices of the agriculture produces. This must be rethink in the view of the farmers' cost of cultivation, so that for the last 5 years and the last another 5 years back, the government of India, while are releasing the MSPs for every year, the farmer cost of production is taken into consideration. Otherwise, the farmers will fall in loss. The agriculture, actually, there is a one thing. Agriculture is such a nice, sir. It can be nice for viewers like us, and to the audience to hear somebody. But it is very difficult to who do the agriculture. That is farmer. So that because my passion and my birth in the agriculture, I am saying that there is no God but farmer. All the agriculture in India is gambling with monsoons. There is no guarantee till he sells the produce into the market. When the crop comes to harvest, the rain may come, and that produce will be lost in the rains. When the crop is sown, like Anantapur, you might have known, it's a very lowest rainfall district where I am working, next to Jaisalmer. There is no guarantee of getting the crop because the perennial droughts in Anantapur. After sowing, there would be no rain up to 45 days also in many years. So that there is a very huge risk of the agriculture by the farmers. So that the governments have come forward to protect the agriculture through crop insurance. First, we are thankful to the government of India by introduction of Pradhana Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana. The state and the central government sharing 50% on half 50% basis to pay the claims premiums of the farmers. Now the government of Andhra Pradesh had gone up to the milestone by introducing YSR free crop insurance program. Before introduction of this program, the farmer has to pay 20% of the premium for their crops in the context of the crop loss. But the recent government, even that 20% is also a burden for the farmer, so that the government have thought that 20% is also borne by the state government. That is 60% by the state government, 40% by the government of India. There is no question of paying the premium by the farmers. So it is free crop insurance program is being implementing successfully in our government.
Last
So
1
that
minute, Habib.
sir. Yes, sir. So that it's an imperative thing to support farmers in all their drudgeries, because he is feeding the millions of the mouths. Even our food production, actually, in my opinion, 40% global feeding mouths are by the produce of the proud Indian farmer. So that in the caption itself, Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan. These two are needed for our country. We have to protect these interest of these two persons, maybe some millions and crores. Because food security, that security is given by the farmer, not by policymakers, not by my officials or somebody. Because he has to cultivate the land, he has to raise the crops, he has to take all the difficulties for all of us, because our country is the best country for agriculture, and agriculture security can be secured if the farmer is secured. With
Thank
this,
you,
I'm very proud to say that my farmer is my God.
Thank you,
sir.
Thank you,
Dr.
Mr.
Habib, Dr. Habib, this is Rupa here, and I have met you once in Andhra Pradesh. What you speak comes out of experience and straight from your heart. And I know for sure the yeoman work, and we recognize the government of India and the state of Andhra Pradesh, even during these COVID times. Each of the farmer, it's ensured that they get a minimum essential requirements, all that they need to run their houses is given to the farmers, and they're being taken care. I'm really happy that, while you're working there on the farm, you are directly talking to us from there, from the ground, and you've given us so much insights. I also wish you and all our Muslim brothers here a very happy Eid Mubarak. Eid Mubarak.
Happy Bakrid, madam. Happy Bakrid to all of you.
Yeah, all of you are here. I'm sorry, I forgot in the beginning that for ourselves. Yes, please, Dr. Mahesh.
Yes. Yeah, madam, as rightly you analyzed, Mr. Habib Pasha is the ground reality person. He has brought out the implications of the Andhra Pradesh agricultural focused welfare programs, and especially the one interesting was single stop shop, which he called it as Rait Bharos Kendra. In Karnataka we call Raita Seva Kendra, RSK, now it is RBK. Excellent. This is what the need of the day. This is what the change one should see, and this is with this, as you rightly indicated, the food security can be looked into, and the schemes of the government of India and government of Karnataka being launched, how they have impacted, especially through NFSM, and maybe your state is now leading with the, or rather Andhra Pradesh state is leading with ZBNF, zero budget natural farming. Another scheme here, where we can also energize the farmers to go in for the low investment and to cash better. And the issue of unscientific price mechanism and the hindrance of the market is being a ever problem with the whole of agriculture in the state and the country. I'm sure the ICT technologies over a period of time, they may render some support for for fixing these prices from the farmer alone and fixing the prices from his farm gate, and they can able to look into the ICT applications for the marketing front. I'm sure that the field monitoring officers like Habib Pasha, they are certainly going to bring in a change in the farmers, especially with regard to the investment part and about the crop insurance and regarding the this supply chain management, and more so on price and marketing system. We are really thankful to Mr. Habib Pasha for your very valued and experienced insights, and we look forward for your association in our regional college and university at Anandpur for new things to happen in our association. Thank you, Mr. Pasha. Thank you. And now we have the third speaker, who is Mrs. Jayashree Balasubramaniam. She is the director of MS Swaminathan Research Foundation. And as you all aware, MS Swaminathan is the pioneer who has been, revolutionized agriculture in the country through his Green Revolution. And the director, Jayashree Balasubramaniam, is working there and is serving there as the research scholar and a research director in this MS Swaminathan Research Foundation. and we're happy to recollect the support and the guidance given by this MS Ram Swaminathan Research Foundation in our earlier I2C2 conference, wherein very tangible support was rendered by this particular research foundation, and we are very keen to associate in our several activities with this foundation. Happy to have Jayashree in this program, and to highlight Mr. Jayashree Balasubramanian's performance in the field of research is she has over 2 decades of research experience in not only agriculture, food security, and also into this health, nutrition, and water sanitation, and also with media experience. So you can see the diversified capabilities and dimensions of Madam Jayashree. And Jayashree is now looking forward for Foundation's goals of linking science and society through her various contemporary and communication approaches. And fortunate to know her experience with the ICRISAT and UNICEF, and also Bill Gates Foundation, wherein for especially on the food production, food security, and health issues, she has intensely worked on that. And she is the media career with the Bureau of Chief South India, and she's also leading this India Today television. And she's basically an academic researcher of media science also, in addition to the other faculties what I mentioned. And she is a visiting faculty for postgraduate students and media journalism. So that is her wide experience and rich wisdom. I'm sure that today Madam Jayashree is going to provide us an insight and views as to how the food production and coupled with this nutrition management are going to be happening right now, and what could be the prospects in days to come. Yes, over to Madam Jayashree Balasubramanian, please.
So thank you very much for the very kind introduction, and I must also congratulate Best University for taking up this very important theme, because right now with the pandemic situation and the transition we are going through, there's such great need for ensuring the food and nutrition security of the millions of our population. So to just start with, I would like to make a brief presentation and focus on very, very few key points. Since there are a lot of eminent people on this panel, I think many points have already been raised, but I have 3 very specific points to make, and I would like to just start by presenting that now. So I hope you can see my screen. So this is the title of my talk, which is really Technology as the Great Equalizer. And the picture that you see is relevant because it's the picture of, it's the picture of a person who was part of a conference. This is a digital conference that farmers were involved in. Now, normally we have a lot of, people participating in webinars. We have professionals, we have corporates. But in this particular case, the farmers have seen digital transformation in a way that hasn't happened before. There are 2 quotes that I want to start by sharing. One is from the UN Human Development Report, which says that technology for public good means the processes such as diffusion of new technology and human development achievements in large segments of society may actually increase inequality. What does this mean? This really means that a subject like what we are saying today, who does it actually reach? Does it reach the small and marginal farmer? Because the Swaminathan Research Foundation works primarily with small and marginal farmers. The second point is from FAO. Already Dr. Rupa Vasudevan mentioned the FAO's studies in the introduction of the talk, where women tend to be responsible for procuring and providing food in households, and the primary workers, with an average of 43% of the agricultural workforce, but still they don't have many of the rights in terms of access to technology or access to land. So in terms of pathways, what does it actually mean? I think the earlier speakers highlighted how the agricultural technology pathways have been very useful in a number of ways. But to just summarize, a few years ago, the Swaminathan Foundation, in partnership with the Principal Scientific Advisor, Government of India, on their request, put out a measure for how do you actually measure agricultural technology in terms of what is the impact it has had. So in the foreword, Professor Swaminathan noted that There has been over 4 times increase in food grain production from 1951-52 till the beginning of the century. There has been a 2.5 time increase in productivity of major cereals from 61-62 till 2001-2. The net area under irrigation has also increased. So has the gross irrigated area increased by over 300%. But we must keep in mind that agriculture is the biggest consumer of freshwater resources, 30% of which goes into livestock as well. And all this is only projected to increase in the days to come. The milk production, where India, basically everybody knows about how India from Green Revolution to the Operation Flood and how we had the Blue Revolution. It has been a lot of revolutions over the past few decades, from 20 million tons in 50-51 to taking India to the first position in world milk production. Unfortunately, I would also like to add that over the past couple of decades, possibly we have seen a little bit of a slowdown in terms of how the agricultural technology has been taken up. And in that, as we say, we need to have it at all stages, right from the seed to the soil in water inputs, the various machinery tools, the farming methods, post-harvest process, market linkages. We can use technology at all stages, and we actually need technology at all stages, whether it's in terms of improved seed, modern practices with regard to conservation of soil, water. As I mentioned, water agriculture is a huge consumer of fresh water. So how do we have the best water efficient mechanisms? Inputs in terms of being sustainable. Sustainable agriculture is really what we need today. We can't have very high input agriculture, which is not going to be sustainable in terms of either cost or anything else. Machinery and tools and farming methods, which the government, which as well as different research institutions, scientific institutions, they've done a lot of research, and this research has been translated into practice through the extension services. But we also need to ensure it reaches the small farmer. Post-harvest processes. During the pandemic, we did a series of studies, and our single biggest finding was this: the small farmer is unable to wait, is unable to hold on to the harvest because they need that daily income. However, due to efficient storing mechanisms, due to efficient post-harvest processes, they can have triple the income that they are having now, if only this was made available to them. They had knowledge, they had little bit of a cushion in terms of the income. So all this is important. And finally, market linkages. Market and the monsoon. These are the two big determinants of agriculture. And if you know that you're going to get a much better price by directly reaching the market, and if technology can provide you that, then automatically agriculture becomes efficient. So the 3 points which I was going to say, the first point is really about technology. I started with a small photograph of an old farmer. Now he connected on a webinar. We are talking on a webinar, and for us, we take the computer, the internet connection, the access and knowledge of technology for granted. But for him, it was a long process. He had to get his son to help him dial in. And the reason he was dialing in was because he wanted to get some expert advice about a problem that his plants were facing. So in terms of what we provide, plant clinics, that is one of the, the services that MSSRF has been providing, because pests and diseases cause a lot of problem in terms of loss to farmers, and you have to give timely advice. What do you do during lockdown? You have to use digital technology. So this technology not only helped this old farmer, but many farmers who had never used a smartphone, who didn't know what a webinar was. And it is really nice to see them saying, unmute, please send me the chat message, and using words like that, which normally you don't, expect them to use. It has been a transformation in their life. They have really upped their stake and made sure that they access the technology in a way that they have never done it before. This, in fact, initiative of ours and the way the farmers are taking to technology as they have never done before was featured in the World Economic Forum website. So this is one of the work that appeared. Pests in a Pandemic, India's plant doctors will see you online now. So we have online consultation with doctors for health. Why not online consultation with agricultural experts connecting to farmers? That is happening everywhere in every part of India. We ourselves are doing it in 3 states, with expansion in another 2 states, and we are a research organization with a limited reach. So multiple organizations, government, Krishi Vigyan Kendras, outreach centers, doing it all over the place means the small farmer is ready to take on this digital transformation. The second input I'm going to talk about is addressing malnutrition. As both, Dr. Rupa Vasudevan and also I think Professor Basha mentioned, malnutrition is a huge issue, and India's status on the malnutrition index is very well known. Where does agriculture play a role in this is one research question that we took up for a period of about 5 to 6 years in multiple countries across South Asia. And this led to a concept called farming system for nutrition. What is farming system for nutrition? Farming system is really a strategy by which we have a specific location-specific model. Now, the problem with a lot of models is that it cannot be universally applied. However, in every region, depending on the availability of seed, depending on the soil, depending on the way the farmers are actually carrying out their work, there is a lot of options and opportunities. So we have devised a location-specific model that includes multiple criteria. So we don't have only agriculture alone, because that puts your income at risk. So you have it along with other components, both to protect your livelihood and also keeping in mind that your income also needs to be promoted. So, yeah. So sorry about the noise there. So what I was going back to is this particular model, and you can just take a look at it here, what all it includes. The Farming System for Nutrition Alliance, which includes all of these components. You can see nutrition literacy, you can see kitchen and school garden, you can see intercropping with pulses, dairy, and by having all of this, see, actually, if you see, the traditional Indian farming system was like this. But however, over period, if you see a little bit of agricultural distress, you will see that livestock is the first to go. People start selling, the farmers start selling their livestock. It's the first sign of agricultural distress. But when you sell the livestock, what happens? Automatically, the nutrients required for your farm are reduced, or the access to nutrients is reduced. So this model, and I will be happy to share this presentation and also the research papers around this, was tried in different locations, in different countries. It was very well studied, and we find that it's not only economical, it not only provides a better livelihood, it also serves to give better nutrition first to the farmer, because we should not forget that the farmer and the farmer's family is also somebody who needs that nutrition, and then to the others for whom they are producing food. The third important issue is climate change. This again is something that was mentioned earlier, and the innovation here, or you see, I also want to just clarify that when we are talking about agricultural technology, we have to broaden our vision and our scope of what we mean by technology. And to me, it's an innovation, a novel approach, or a scientifically researched, kind of plan that can help address a problem. So in this case, when we are addressing climate change through innovation, we have this integrated mangrove restoration program along India's east coast, and this has been globally recognized as a very good strategy, not just for degradation, but it's also for addressing degradation, but it's also for providing some sort of income. Now, we want everybody to save the world, but for a person who is already living in poverty, you have to ask the question, what is in it for them? You're struggling with your day-to-day livelihood, what is in it for them? That is where this integrated mangrove fishing farming system makes a difference, because it not only provides aquaculture combining with with a forestry program, but it also provides healthy food in terms of the harvest that they get, and the woman-friendly model gives them income while conserving the ecosystem. So this is a picture. It's beautiful. This place is like actually beautiful, and as mentioned earlier, so over
Jayashree, I'm sorry to interrupt. Jayashree, I'm sorry to interrupt. We don't see your presentation actually.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt. Yeah.
No problem.
we saw it for a bit and then.
Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so,
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry about that. So this is, just to go back. Did you see this model, the farming system model?
Oh no, nothing. Yeah. Oh, this is great.
This is, yeah. So this is the farming system model, and we are having. This is a picture of the mangrove, the Pichavaram area where a lot of it has been restored, and where the communities are working in partnership with scientists. So it is an integrated forestry cum fishing model where the community gets an income. We help the environment, and we are also restoring the mangrove. So it is a very well documented model. So
Last minute, madam.
sorry, yeah, there was a little noise. Yeah, can you still see my presentation?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So this brings me to my last slide, which is the summary and recommendations in terms of what you could actually suggest to policymakers, because I think you did mention that this is what is the output. So here are a few suggestions. Scientific advancement in all fields, including in agriculture, needs special emphasis. So we really need to talk about, when we say scientific advancement, when there is a new medicine, when they are developing a vaccine, people don't question it too much in terms of what is going in and what is going out. But when it comes to agricultural technology, for instance, improved seed, there are so many people who start protesting. This seed is not safe, and then you're trying to bring foreign companies in, and then you're trying to corporatize agriculture and so many things. But if you ask the farmer, if you give the farmer an improved seed, she will use it. Why are you depriving a poor farmer of scientific advancement by false propaganda? So we have to take science at face value. This is, including in biotechnological approaches. The third point is access to knowledge, information, and technology needs awareness and emphasis. So where is the technology reaching? Is it reaching the people most at need? And are we addressing major issues such as malnutrition, climate change, environmental degradation? All of these, there are solutions available in technology and innovation, but we need community participation and their involvement, which is the only way in which we can scale up. And the mangrove is a good example of that. The final point is that we need to strengthen the entire agricultural value chain. It is not just one part alone that we say, okay, you use mobile phones and then automatically your agriculture is going to improve. It doesn't work like that. The entire value chain from the seed systems till the market has to be strengthened through technology so that it can have a very robust output for the entire system. So these are the few summaries and recommendations, and I would just like to end with a snapshot of the the response to COVID, where we as a research institution normally do not do this knee-jerk kind of work, but this is a time when everybody came together, and so did we. And we found that farmers and rural communities were worst hit in terms of not being able to harvest. If they were able to harvest, they were not able to sell. If they were able to sell, they were not getting a good price. So many problems which were faced over the past 2-3 months, which are getting resolved. The government made a lot of announcements, but even for that announcement to be made known to the farmer, some information was required. They needed to know that the announcement is made. You can go and you can take your produce and go. You can go to the market and sell it. So this is where sometimes we also need to change our way of working and respond to a crisis. And so with these few suggestions, and I would like to thank you for giving me this opportunity. And if you would like to get in touch or reach out to MSSRF, please you could log on. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Before Dr. Maheshwar could sum up, I am so thankful to you, Jayashree. I know about the yeoman work that MSSRF has been doing. MS Swaminathan, professor himself, is like a godfather to India, not only to me, but for the entire agricultural fraternity. Today, there is food in the bowels of crores of farmers in India is because of the Green Revolution that first was because of Professor. And I would like to recognize that fact, and I would like all respects for Professor. He's always been encouraging institutions, scientists, and communities to work together. And that's exactly what you have emphasized today. Women, malnutrition, agri-value chain, innovation. Yes, these are imperative. I thank you again for being a part of this session. It's really added value. Thank you so much. And my regards to my godfather, Professor Swaminathan.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll definitely pass it on. And thanks to BEST for being such a vibrant place, where you always get very good churning of ideas, interaction with experts. So please keep that up. We really, need people like that to set everything rolling. Yeah.
And our students are ready for any project that you deem fit anytime. Thank you.
Sure. Most welcome. Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Jayashree, and as well as to our Chancellor Rupa Vasudevan for honoring and showing our gesture towards the very respectful work being done by this particular foundation. And I'm sure now the initiation of this green revolution, now you have to focus on market revolution. That's what the message Jayashree Madam has indicated. Now the time has come to see how the farmers are going to be online farmers, how they're going to be online farming, whether that's going to be realistic, whether that's going to be possible. So that is a way we are now looking for those things to happen. And more so the farming system for nutrition, which is another icon of this integrated farming system. I'm sure that over a period of time, this is the one which is going to support the malnutrition part. And we certainly take note of the recommendations and suggestions provided by MSSR Foundation through Jayashree Madam, and appropriately we will bring it to the notice of the government for policy making and for implementation. Thank you once again, Madam Jayashree. Yeah, now we have the another speaker, Mr. K.T. Gangadhar. K.T. Gangadhar is a progressive farmer from Karnataka. Dr. Gangadhar, are you there? Dr. K.T. Gangadhar. Yeah, he is there. Yeah, Dr. K.T. Gangadhar. Mr. K.T. Gangadhar is a progressive farmer, and he was a member of the NABARD Advisory Council, and he was the president of the Farmers Association in Shumaga, and also the state president for the Karnataka Horticultural Marketing Federation in Bangalore. And he has actively taken lead role in uprising the scientific principles, scientific issues to the government on price mechanism, price fixation, and such other issues. And he has also been awarded with many state level awards, and he has visited various cities, including various countries, including Vatican City and Sri Lanka and other international farmers forum. I'm sure that Mr. K.T. Gangadhar, by virtue of his being in the farmers field, being the farmers leader, and I'm sure that he is going to enlighten us onto the implications of policy, how the technologies have really been adopted in the field level, what are the repercussions, what are the impact. Okay, those things we expect from Mr. K.T. Gangadhar. Yes, Mr. K.T. Gangadhar to take on.
Dr. Maheshwar, I don't see Gangadhar ji here.
Huh?
I don't see him here.
Okay.
Do we have JB Venkatakrishnan ji here?
Right.
Yes, madam, I'm here.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, hi. Vice Chancellor sir, maybe we can move on to the next speaker in the meanwhile.
Yeah, we have the Mr. JB Venkatakrishna.
Yes.
Mr. Venkatakrishna is the director of Kovac India and Nourish Food Products Technology, Bangalore. And he is also a director of the Nourish Food Technology Private Limited. And he has over 20 years of experience in engineering, finance, and project issues, and he is leading a pilot project for Karnataka that is on the biodegradable plastic making issues, and he has diversified experience in water management, agriculture, health and environment, and he has a good exposure to the international markets and to the requirements, specifications to be addressed to the agriculture production, and he has a wide range of experience in water engineering, software development for retailing, banking, financial products, and all. So we are fortunate to have Mr. Venkat Krishna to enlighten his experience in the field of agriculture and agriculture business and agricultural forward marketing. Please, Mr. Venkat Krishna.
Good afternoon, Dr. Saab. Thank you very much, and I would like to thank you, the Chairman, Vice Chancellor, Chancellor, and other board members of Best Innovation University. And good afternoon to all the viewers. I would like to start the presentation. I'm representing Nourish Food Processing Technology Company based in Bangalore. So, in 2015, when the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals were officially, adopted, the clock began ticking on an ambitious goal of ending the global hunger by 2030. However, by 2050, the world must feed 9 billion people. The demand for food will be around 60% greater than as of today. So, at the time when the United Nations goal was set, it was the target seemed achievable. Because of the previous 15 years, the number of undernourished people on the planet had been reduced by half that time. A staggering achievement attributed largely to international investments in agriculture and economic infrastructure. But in 2016, the number of people without enough to eat increased to 815 million across the globe. But the reason is obvious. It is a traditional reason because of the droughts, floods, conflicts, and displacements have hurt harvest and weakened the output. But a more intangible factor is no less important. Many of the networks on which farmers have traditionally dependent to cope up with these disasters have been lost or degraded. So the ending the global hunger is not just about breeding, the drought-resistant corn, but it is always about having a plan for when that corn fails anyway. In other words, it is as much as about reimagining the social networks as it is about deciding what goes into the ground. So when you talk about the food security for the world's poorest smallholder farmers, unpredictability is the only constant. So to mitigate the risk, people in rural areas have always relied on their personal networks for information to help them weather crisis or improve productivity and limit crop losses. In return, what they got was the relationships, facilitate the exchange of information and goods, diversified diets, strengthened farming techniques, and guarded against the hunger. So now talking about the technology, one of the best way to do is this by investing in new technologies that enable farmers to connect with the information and institutions that can decrease uncertainty and mitigate the risk. Some of the most promising innovations in rural agricultural technology are technology and service based. So with access to data, as said by the other panel speaker, Mr. Manjula, with access to data, markets and financial services, farmer can plant, fertilize, harvest, and sell products more effectively. So at the moment, these type of innovations are not featured prominently in the most hunger alleviation strategies, but that is slowly changing now, especially as more people in emerging economies connect to mobile networks and apps, which is designed to collect and share agricultural information, become increasingly accessible. So from the corporate point of view, from the private sector, which has directly or indirectly contributed to the the food security. So some of the successful business model I'm going to share it with you, which is nowadays and which is in front of us. So one of the model is from ITC, the Indian Tobacco Company Limited, which introduced an online model which has been for more than a decade. This eChoupal, which is an integrated rural development program, and which combines the watershed and the social and farm forestry program also. This program is a 360-degree intervention that enables comprehensive development of rural ecosystem through information dissemination, providing access to quality inputs and market prices, generating supplementary incomes and augmenting the natural resources. It also includes women's empowerment, education and vocational training for the farming and the village level. So this model, it delivers the same benefits that vertical integration does in mature agricultural economies like United States. It makes use of physical transmission capabilities of the current intermediaries like the aggregation, logistics, counterparty risks, and bridge financing, while disintermediating from the chain of information flow and market origins. So it also has the village internet kiosk managed by farmers called Sanchalaks, and it provides real-time information, customized knowledge, provided to the farmers. And the model has really leveraged the information technology, which is available to us today. So another one model is about Big Basket, which has become a common name in our life, day-to-day basis. But for consumers, it is a delivery platform. As we all know, Big Baskets involve the supply of fresh and perishable goods. But as a business and for the business, it is a very complex value chain. It involves procurement, supply chain, logistics, delivery, payments and returns, and also it gives consumer services. So there are two sides for the Big Baskets. One is the buying side of the farm produce and management of stock. And the Big Basket model also has leveraged the information technology. And nowadays they are planning to make the deliveries under 4 hours. And it also promotes private labels. And then it has developed a lot of online only dark stores. It means the consumer do not know where their stock is sold. It is called dark stores. And one more thing is one of the successful model here in India is Sahyadri Farms, which is a farmer producer company with 460 crore turnover now. And they have developed a crop specific integrated value chain, and they are using the blockchain model, and then they are having a traceability between farmer and consumer. And most importantly, export quality produce for all consumers. It means the export quality produce is made to the Indian consumer too. So the model involves, reasonable rates, and then it gives a fair rate to the farmers and reduced production cost through the advisory services. And then the farmers are having the access to latest technological practices, and then highly transparent deals. And also it has given them, aggregation has given them an opportunity to explore the new markets. So another one most important, which has used, we have seen about the information technology leveraging companies, the corporates, whereas Jain irrigation system has leveraged it is within the process, within the process technology advancements. So the Jain irrigation, assures the disease-free planting materials and low-density planting technology, and guaranteed survival of plants and soil-less potting media and fertigation. It's all made accessible and available to the farmers. And all of us would have known about the Cropin, which provides model both to the government and to the private sector, whereas through the Cropin data mechanism, whereas the customers get the real-time data reporting. And Cropin has covered over 2 million hectares of land and covered more than 2 million farmers across the globe digitized. So it has, the information, the Cropin data mechanism give access to, the agri-input companies, financial lending institutions, crop insurance providers, and farming companies for, for example, the retailer have the output predictability. And then seed production, it also brings on board the seed production companies and government, and also it has information from and to the government and advisors. So having said this, the mere existence of this technology will not end hunger. So the challenge is to, broaden the access to all these tools and ensure that they meet the needs of the farmers who use them, who are the major, the majority of the technology is going to be, the end user is going to be the farmers. So it means, that the emerging markets and the developing economies, improves, the mobile technologies and the connectivity to the internet. It facilitates, quick and secure fund transfer and mobile banking services, and tap to high value and market places, and mobile payment system also facilitating remittances easily and give the immediate instant finance to the farmers. But this demand, the mobile technologies take into account differences. You see, the technology what we have to develop or being developed should take into account the differences in gender, education, and resource level among farmers, and are responsive to changing circumstances. This is a big challenge to the technology companies nowadays to meet the challenges, and the impact and success of these tools and the programs should be monitored and evaluated with effective approaches. They have to be improved or replaced. With this one, our company Nourish Food Tech Private Limited have developed a couple of mobile and web platform applications, which helps the farmer to consumer web portal and mobile platform, where the farmer can directly trade with the consumers, and also an Nland, drone monitoring for plant growth and productivity, with the help of our parent company in the Netherlands. Thank you very much, and I would like to have any questions answered.
Thank you, Venkat Krishnan, for your practical insights, focusing on how the recent trends are supporting both producers and consumers. The models what you proposed are to be intensified in the farmer producer organization and in the cooperative mode also. I'm sure that over a period of time, this type of new type of production linked to the consumption, production based requirement, production for export, production for value addition, they have a great days to come. And I'm sure your IT supported platforms are also going to be much more useful to the farmers in days to come. And I'm sure that some of those platforms would be tried through the student-centric institutions like ours. I'm sure that with this we can able to reach out to the maximum farmers through extension approaches. Thanks for your time, Mr. Venkat Krishnan. And I was expecting little input on biodegradable plants of yours. Maybe in the subsequent
yes, sir, we will do that.
We will request you exclusively to say how the biomass of one type will be used of multiple users in the industry. Maybe we look forward in days to come. Thank you, Venkat, once again. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. With this, we have completed today's address by the speakers, and started with director of the KAE, who is on the policy issues and the program issues and evaluation issues, followed by the practical issues and the ground level programs in Andhra Pradesh by Mr. Habib Basha. Then the research perspective from the MS Swaminathan Research Foundation, and as to what are the new models of nutrition upliftment have been provided by them, and ultimately the different models of producers and consumers has been brought out by Mr. Venkat. And I'm sure that all the views and insights are going to be captured, and they're going to be assimilated to develop a better roadmap from our Best IU and World Forum of Education organization. Now with this, I will request our senior advisor and the former Special Chief Secretary of Andhra Pradesh, Dr. Manmohan Singh ji, to offer his opinions and give his knowledgeable insights as to how the webinar was gone in, and what are the key lessons one can able to note for the future prospective the plan formulation. Now it is to Dr. Manmohan Singh sir.
Just before you start, sir, one small announcement that Gangadhar ji, who is a very, very progressive farmer who guides more than thousands of farmers in Karnataka, 2 states of India, is unable to join us as our speaker today because of technical glitches. And he will be joining us in the next session next week at 12 o'clock. We've requested him to be there next week. Thank you. And lastly, we have some of our friends from Africa who are also having similar agricultural webinars through World Women Leading Change. And you may please look at the World Forum for Education website, where we make all the announcements of the seminars that are happening across with the IDs and login details. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maheshwar ji. It is really very, very enlightening webinar today. This is the 4th in the series. We started the first one that was on 11th of July. And today is 1st of August. We heard very eminent people, very knowledgeable people, and a lot of experiences from the scientific institutions as well as from the field farmers as well as the officials who are working at field level. It gives us a wide range of issues in agriculture. And everyone in the webinar, they have talked about the importance of food, billions of people suffering, and the population is going to go up. As today in this webinar, the figure given is 9 billion by 2050, and food requirement is going to go up. So such is the importance of this sector. We all stakeholders, all the concerned people, we need to come together, we need to join hand and see how best we can improve the situation. Very, very complex issue. The range of experiences our speaker have brought here today, Dr. Manjunath, Mr. Habib Basha, Joint Director, Agriculture, Anantapur, Ms. Jayashree Balasubramanian from MS Swaminathan Research Foundation, and Mr. Venkat Krishnan from private industry. It gives a wide range of issues. How do we tackle it? And therefore, this webinar being conducted by Best Innovation University is to find out this range of issues, as well as what are the various initiatives that will work, not only theoretical, but initiative that will work. So this kind of recommendation we can give in the form of a broad resolution. After our 10th webinar, we are going to have another 6 in this series, and then give some kind of a very practical kind of suggestions so that situation can be improved. In today's discussion, Dr. Manjunath has given all the kind of technology that is available and that can be used. And entire agriculture scenario he has narrated very nicely. Mr. Habib Basha has given very, very practical issues which he is seeing in the field, in the farmer's land. And as Chancellor was telling, it has come from his heart. And really, He has spoken very well, and he has also given the various initiatives taken by Andhra government, Raitu Bharosa Kendras, YSR free crop insurance. These are very important initiatives as far as supply of inputs at the doorstep. That is a very, very critical thing, and especially in drought-prone area like Anantapur. And what he has said is Jai Jawan, Jai Kishan. This is the need of hour. Both are important. Finally, he said, farmer is God. Such kind of attitude, if we have, definitely our focus will be more on solving their problem. It's very unfortunate, he said, that farmers are committing suicide. It's really unfortunate, and we must really take it very, very seriously. Ms. Jayashree has brought concept of farming system for nutrition to tackle the problem of malnutrition in children. This is the new thing I came to know today through her, and it's really very, very important. It's a region specific, area specific, and also integrated farming system. So they're especially taking care of a small farmer, marginal farmer, and also women-friendly farming, and taking care of environment. These are very, very important issues which MS Swaminathan Research Foundation is working on, and their input will be really very, very useful for the country. Mr. Venkat Krishnan has narrated successful models. That gives us a kind of initiative which we can take and upscale, like eChopal of ITC, Big Basket, FPO, Sahyadri Farming, Jain Irrigation, Cropping, that is information system. So the range of issues which we need to tackle is really very, very wide. And finally, he said that technology alone cannot help. It has to be accessible, it has to be affordable. So we need to think from the farmer's perspective. 87% of our farmers are small and marginal. The land holding is almost like a 1 hectare. With this small holding, what technology, which kind of initiative will be helpful? And as Ms. Jayashree told, 43% are women. So we need to see the profile of our farmers. Most of them are working in their own farm, which is very small, and many of them have given it to somebody and working as a farm labor in their own land. So these are the range of issues which we need to think, and this webinar is giving us a lot of insight. People from different institutions and experience, they are giving us suggestions which will be really helpful for us, for our state Andhra Pradesh, as well as for the country. So I thank all the eminent speakers who joined today in our webinar and given their valuable suggestions. I'm also thankful to our special guest, Dr. Ayla from Indonesia, Ambassador Alice Kamunge, and Ambassador Debbie from Africa. I also thank our chairman of Best Innovation University, Dr. Bharatlal Meena-ji, Chancellor Dr. Rupa Vasudevan-ji, and our Vice Chancellor, Dr. D.L. Maheshwar-ji, and all the faculty members and students and other participants who have given their valuable time and attended this webinar. And with this, we will now close this webinar, and we'll meet again in the next Saturday for 5th edition of webinar on this subject. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you
sir.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
Thank you, Manjunath. Thank you. Thank you.